Ivana. Welcome to VASIVA. Today we are, joined with my sister. Well, it's my cousin, but I call her my sister. This is my actual cousin, Natalija or Natalija.
Yeah, we can use that. We can use my alter egos, Natalie, Natasha, like whichever one works.
Exactly. So, in today's episode, we will be talking about our childhood and growing up. Me and Natalia are both Serbian, so we've had the luxury of growing up in two different countries, in Canada and in Serbia. I personally lived in Serbia for 4 years, but Natalia visited pretty much every other summer.
Every other summer. So if you're adding up like all the months, it's gonna be like a year and a half, pretty much, of like living there in total. So
Is it that little?
well, yeah, because like usually 2 months, right? And every other year, so 10 sessions of like 2 months. That's about a year and a half.
True. Okay. But yeah, that's what we're going to be talking today. So I have a couple topics here. So we're going to first start off with family background. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our family dynamics and how they work.
Yeah.
So for me, I am the youngest child and the only girl. I have two older brothers, 35 and 31. I know, they're hella old. I know they're listening to this, but I love you. But you're hella old, bro. But yeah, growing up was pretty lonely. I didn't really. I had friends, but it's not in the same way as having a sibling as a friend, which my brothers have had the luxury of growing up with each other. So they had that unconditional support and partner throughout growing up, and I more looked at them as a father figure in my life because again my dad was pretty much not around in my life that much growing up, so it was because he was in a different country, by the way. Not like he was abandoned me or anything like that. Nothing sad like that. So yeah, I pretty much saw them as a father figure. Branko, the 35-year-old, was pretty much more of that joking sibling relationship where it was just normal, we joke around, but then we laugh together, just have a really good time. But then with Marco, now he's 31, but growing up, it was very that annoying sibling relationship where your sibling is the most annoying person on the world. Me and him would yell at each other, get into fights, mimic each other, make fun of each other. It was just a lot of that. I'd throw tantrums and I'd hit him because I'd be so mad at him for annoying me or something. Overall, it was just very a fun type of sibling relationship, but that one where you're oh, I wish you weren't my sibling sometimes.
Natural.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was pretty much growing up. I had a couple friends, but overall house life was just me, my Marco, and my mom. Branco ended up moving back home with my dad to pursue a job over there, so it was pretty much just three of us for a period of time. Well, for a long period of time. It's pretty much I think the earliest vivid couple years I can remember. So it was a lot of moving around in my childhood too. I moved from cities to cities, from a big house to a townhouse to a basement apartment, and then finally moving to Serbia in 2009. Oh my god, I was gonna say 2011.
I was gonna say 2010, but then I was like, no, I remember that year, right after I came to visit. So
yeah, so it was 2009. It was in April, and shit went down there. It was a very hard. It was a hard adjustment, but I don't really remember it being too hard in the moment. I did have a little bit of a language barrier. Me and Natalia, both when we were younger, we understood Serbian more better than we spoke it. So that's pretty much how it is growing up. You speak Serbian in the house, and then you kind of just either talk in English, or if it's a simple reply, you'll reply in Serbian, but that's pretty much it. And I had to start school there. They actually put me a grade below so I can, catch up with the kids my age because technically I was supposed to go into grade 4 when I got there, but they put me back in grade 3 to catch me up with the language barrier. So I didn't mind that. I had my best friend there in the class with me. We went to the same classroom and stuff like that, so that was helpful. Um, yeah, I remember just like sitting, I had a tutor, still talk to her to this day, she's amazing. But she helped me with like the alphabet. I remember I had to learn our Cyrillic. Is it Cyrillic? Not Cyrillic.
It might be Cyrillic, but
I think it's Cyrillic. Our Cyrillic alphabet, and that shit's complicated as hell.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely not like the hardest, but like it definitely takes like for certain letters and certain words, definitely a lot of practice to master.
Yeah, like I remember I was doing the D, and she started laughing at me, like like redrawing it, and I was like embarrassed. And she's like, "No, no," she found it so adorable. But yeah, I remember like having to learn the alphabet by heart, and like we have what 30 letters instead of the traditional 24. So that's like an extra couple more you gotta learn off the
Yeah.
bat. But yeah, like overall, I remember just like learning the language, and then I remember my friends would make fun of me for saying like the letter like ch and ch.
I still struggle with that to this day. That's gonna be a struggle for the rest of my life. Like
I
it's one
think
of
so.
those things that you like pick up either living in the country consistently long enough or you're a native and you've just been born there and
Yeah.
you grew up knowing that specific like tongue movement for those particular letters. Um, yeah, I'd probably say like one of those two correctly like once every like
Blue moon.
blue moon. Yeah, like it's very rare. And I usually avoid saying words with that particular letter just so I don't have to embarrass myself because everyone's like, oh, it's so cute. Or they're like mimic it and I'm like, just stop, please. Like,
I remember when my friends would like tell me to purposely say a city that's called Chachak.
oh
And,
shit.
and they'd be like, say it. And I'd be like, Chachak. And they'd be like, and I'd be like, y'all bitches.
It's like we may not be able to say that, but can you pronounce waffle?
I know, without saying Waffen. But
Exactly.
yeah, it was a challenge, but I didn't think it was that hard. Like learning, I know the education system there is very different than here.
Mhm.
It's very more complicated, very more strict.
It's a lot harder, yeah.
I know that in math class we weren't allowed to have calculators. Like you have to do everything by your head.
Hmm.
And I was like, what the hell? I can't do a fraction to a decimal. Are you kidding me? Like that was challenging. But as the years progressed, I started getting like C's and like B's in my first couple, and then like third and fourth grade. And I honestly think my teachers were being a little bit too nice because they felt bad for me. Um,
Maybe, maybe.
you have to. Because I think I was at like a C level, but they gave me a couple B's just to like, you know, help me, I guess, boost my confidence. I don't know. But then again, as the years progressed, I became more and more fluent. I lost my like Canadian accent, I guess you can say, when speaking Serbian. Like I was pretty much fully fluent. Like I knew every word. A couple words I didn't know, but like I would strictly just speak Serbian in the house and stuff like that. But with my brothers, it was always English, and still to this day, we'll always speak English to one another. It's just the way we grew up. But to my mom, my dad, I would speak Serbian. Of course, friends back home, like only Serbian. I know I spoke a couple English. I know I spoke English with a couple of my friends back home because they found it like so interesting and cool. And they were like, I want to brush up on my English skills. And I was like, bet, come here, let's speak fluently. And so I had a couple of friends that would be open, but most of them were like pretty scared to talk English because they would be embarrassed about messing
Yeah.
up. And I'd be like, why? I was like, I'm not here to judge you. um, but I also remember getting made fun of, like, for being, it was like the stupid, like, idiotic little kids that would be like, oh, look, a Canadian chick. Like, I remember I was purposely called Kanajanka, like, which is like Canadian
Oh
chick.
yeah, everyone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you're
They,
the Kanajani. Like it's
yeah.
just like that's your label. Like if you're not from a Balkan country or like specifically, I guess from somewhere in Serbia, they will just call you or American. You can just be Amerikaka. Like
Yeah.
they literally don't differentiate.
But yeah, and I remember like he would make fun of us, and he'd be like, "Or you're probably rich. Like you're rich. Like, you came from Canada. Like what are you doing here? Like you're rich. Like you have loads of money." And we're like, "Ah." To be fair, growing up back home, I was more middle class, I guess you can say, because the whole country is, unless for like maybe 5%, I'd say. Of course, my numbers are not statistically right, but everything else is like low class
Yeah.
and like either really poor or like barely like surviving like low class. So I was very fortunate that I grew up in like middle class. Like we weren't struggling with money. Like we would spend like 10,000 dinars like at grocery stores, which is like crazy. And like round that up, that's like 100 and maybe like 50 Canadian, which you may think is like holy shit, that's so little. But like back home, people spend maybe like 2-3K on groceries, and that's like what, $20 maybe, most 20-30.
I mean, well, like to give people like an idea, one Canadian dollar is about like 70 to 80 dinars, like Serbian
Yeah, Serbian
dinars,
dinars, yeah,
depending on the
currency rate.
fluctuation.
Yeah,
And so,
I mean the Serbian dinar is very low. Like it's
well, yeah,
it's like low.
yeah.
So like even if you try to convert, I remember like when I went there last summer, or last time I went there, I had to convert my Canadian to Serbian, and I was like crying because it wasn't that much. Like I was just like, no. But yeah, so we were very fortunate to grow up, middle class. We weren't struggling. Like anything I wanted, I could pretty much get. Like I remember my dad would take me like on shopping sprees. Like at
Yeah.
it sounds racist, but it's not. They're called, like, we legit call them back home Chinese stores. Like
Oh, but like there's a reason. Like it's like their version of like the dollar store, and it's also owned by like people that have immigrated to Serbia from China.
yeah, exactly. Like it's not a racial thing. Well, like
Well,
maybe. I'm not gonna say no because
depending on who's saying it in what context.
yeah, exactly. But like universally, it's known as the Chinese store because those people run the stores. Like they
Yeah.
import it from their country and stuff like that. So I'd always like go shop at those Kines Kiranya, and they were pretty much like dirt cheap, like a dollar store. And it was amazing. Like he would take me on those shopping sprees, and I'd be like, hell yeah! I remember actually, me and Natalija once went to the Kines Kiranya at my grandma's place, and we found a Kylie Jenner like fake lip kit.
Oh my God. Yeah, they do like a lot of knockoff stuff. So at that time, it was a lot of like Kylie lip kits, like Kylie stuff. They will have like NYX knockoffs. Um, some of the stuff they won't even try to knock off. They'll just say that it's like some next brand.
Yeah.
But during that time, having like the Kylie lip kit from the Radnya, that was a flex.
That was a flex. I think I still have it. It's like I'm scared of what's in it, but like I still have it.
Yeah, you still bought it.
I did. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I'm a flex. A Kylie lip kit. It's a brand new shade. She hasn't come out with it yet. It was like this ugly burnt orange, but whatever.
It was the packaging actually looked very very similar. So
It was. I wish I could find it, but maybe I'll insert a picture or something for the YouTube vids. Um, but yeah, so I remember, again, very grateful I grew up with that middle class status. Um, so yeah, like that's my experience like growing up. But like I said, I became really fluent. My C's turned into A's at the end of the 4 years before I moved back here. Very proud. Yeah, I'm very proud of my Serbian heritage. So I mean, I always give myself a pat on the back because I think moving from a new to a new country, not knowing the language fully and like learning it from the start and finishing off with like a 4.5 like GPA for school, like that just proves how smart I am to myself. Like I just like that just proves like my intelligence. Like anytime I think like, oh, I'm kind of stupid, I look back and I'm like, you did that. Like sis, like you did that. Like you're not dumb. And I was like, you know what? I am not dumb. So that
yeah,
was my experience.
yeah, I definitely think people don't really understand the difference. Like we, a lot of times, like growing up, we would hear our parents talk about how like school over there was like harder. Um, and that's true. Like they're not lying. It definitely is like an example, and you know this better than I do, because around the time that you were like starting school there, I believe like either in the fourth or fifth grade, they actually start separating like science subjects into individual categories. So you will actually start learning like biology, chemistry, physics in like fifth grade or something.
Yeah.
So they definitely put a lot of like pressure and a lot of they just put a lot of work into their students, which is why when those kids like graduate like middle school and even into high school, but that's a little bit of like a different topic we can go over later, which is a little more complicated compared to here, but definitely like a lot harder, a lot more stressful. But admittedly, that is also why the kids aren't dumb. Like, they're not gonna pass you just to pass you. They're gonna give you the marks and let you go forward with your education if you deserve it. So
Yeah, exactly. Like it's true. Like I think in fifth grade it splits into biology separate, and then it's biology, history, and then in sixth grade I think you get like science, but like chemistry science, and then you get physics on top of that, and then it's like you have like 8 classes juggling like 45-minute periods of each, and then you're just like, oh god. But I don't know, it wasn't that bad. Like I remember like even when I came back here, instead of putting me like a grade, the same grade I was, because I was supposed to be in 8th grade, because I finished 7th grade over there, and I was supposed to be in 8th grade, but because the education system is so advanced over there, they put me into grade 9 immediately, like into high school.
you
And
also
I,
still had enough of the language left. Like, you weren't lacking any English skills for them to be like, okay, we're gonna hold you back for a bit. Like, you were totally fine.
yeah, like I was still watching like English shows, YouTube, like playing English games. Like I would talk to you like occasionally, stuff like that. Like I remember my friends would like always try to like sit next to me in English class because I was, like English is like my first language. It's like a flex, I gotta, getting straight A's in that class. I'll never forget. I got a B once, and everyone was like, oh my god, she got a B. And it was because it was grammar, and like at the time I didn't really like know grammar that well, because in Canadian school I sucked. Like I was getting like C's, D's, occasional B's. So like my English skills were not that good. So like grammar wise, looking at it, I was like meh, like iffy. So that's why I got like the 4. Speaking wise, reading wise, which was like the main thing they focused on, amazing. Flying colors.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, very grateful. I could go on to hours about my experience growing up, but I want to hear about your experience going there for the summertime, because it's different, like living there versus like coming there every other year, So I want to know your side of it.
Mm-hmm. So I grew up an only child. Um, Classic, like, only child kind of like situation, like very overprotective parents, very, very small like family dynamic. You have to keep in mind that for you and I both, pretty much the entirety of the rest of our family is like in Serbia, or in Bosnia, or somewhere in the Balkans.
Yeah.
So pretty much like even while you were still here, it was kind of just like us three. So my mom, my dad, and myself, and you guys. So like part of like dad's side of the family.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, growing up, like I grew up in a very like, I'm not gonna say necessarily lonely, because I had like friends in school and stuff that I would see, and so you spend most of your time in school anyway. So I'd be surrounded by people all the time, but like, growing up, just like me, myself, and I, everything like goes to me. There's no like sharing with brothers and sisters. There's no like being picked on by an older sibling or being responsible for a younger one. It was just like everything kind of like circulating around me. Both a blessing and a curse, definitely there. Sometimes, especially right now during this quarantine, a sibling would be nice
Yeah.
to break up the time, or like have some entertaining moments with. But yeah, my childhood was very like average. Same here. Like my parents, and I was raised middle class. So yeah.
Okay, so what about your life growing up back home? Like explain that a little bit. Like how was that for you?
Like growing up like here, like going to school here.
No, like growing up, like going to summer like back home and stuff
Oh
like that.
man, summers in Europe, and like specifically in like smaller towns, like they just hit different. Like, um, you have to keep in mind that like in Europe and in Serbia, I would say especially, it's a very safe country. The Serbian people are all like very nice, very charitable, very generous. Um, the freedom that you get over there is very different from what you would experience here. Like growing up and spending my summers in Toronto, you know, I'd kind of be in like the house pretty much like the entirety of summer. I would just like, you know, go out and maybe play some like activities with my parents, or when I got a little bit older, I would like go out and like spend some time with my friends. But it would always be sort of like a restricted environment, if that makes sense. Like you have a curfew. Be careful, like when you go here, like call me when you get here. It's very more of a cautious, precautionary
Like environment.
I would
Yeah.
say. There's a lot more restrictions involved, and you know, growing up and spending every other summer in Serbia, you are playing with kids on your street, which are like kids of my parents' friends that they grew up with, and you know, you're spending hours like playing outside, playing hide and seek. During that same time, you are also your language skills are also improving because you are getting to communicate with everyone, and just a lot of fun. Like I would probably say from maybe the year that I was 6 or 8 to about the time I was 12, a lot of the summer would just be spent like going outside, playing with those kids. If I'm gonna go into like the little town square, I just be like, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna go with like so and so. I'll be back like later. And they're like, okay. Like there's literally no barrier, no curfew, no restriction. Like another example of kind of like it being a lot more lenient over there. For example, there's a corner store, not even like a 20-second walk from.
Yeah.
And even back when I was like 8, 10, like my dad would just give me like a plastic sort of like holder for like beers, and I would hop over to the corner store and I just buy him beers, and nobody's like questioning anything. Nobody's even like asking for like, oh, where's your parents? Like I'm just like dragging back a plastic holder full of beer, and there's like no questions asked. Like yeah, and cigarettes as well. Like if you want to go grab your parents like cigare, you just give them some dinars and scoop up however many packs and you go home. Like the environment is just very relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the sense of freedom you get back home is just so different. It's so refreshing compared to here. Like you said, here you have to have curfews and restrictions. Like, God forbid I stay past like 12 a.m. up in like downtown Toronto. Like, I might get murdered. like
Sure, like that's always a possibility anywhere, but
yeah.
The biggest differentiation is like obviously bad things can happen to people all the time. It's just a lot less likely in Serbia, in a small town.
Yeah.
Where everybody knows each other. Like it's very, very like everyone knows everyone.
Like I remember like literally me and my friend would just stay up till like 2 a.m. just like walking down the street, like our normal like street, going on walks. Like there'd be kids our age, like similar, outside like playing football or basketball or something like that. Like it was just so chill, and every time I go back home I just kind of like miss coming back home, like coming back here, because it's just so refreshing and nice. It's just a sense of freedom that I hope everyone gets to experience once in their life, because it's just so different. It's so different. It's so amazing. And I hope people who like I know people who like live in different countries are the same, like visit, you know, family back home every once in a while, like knows what I'm talking about. But for those of you who don't, like, I don't even know how to explain it, because it's just it's like so
nice. It's so nice. It's different, and then like you said, it's refreshing, and having that definite like balance of like one summer being like kind of like stuck here, it makes you appreciate you going the next summer and having that like experience a little bit more, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like usually for me, my dynamic for going back home is like every summer, but I think I didn't go back once in 2015 because I had to get eye surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember just staying home that summer, and I was like, this is dreadful. I hate this. And the next time I came back, I was like, I'm ready. And like of course, like the older you get, like, you know, you can like drink. Like I visited last time, You can drink, you can get beer, you can go to like clubs, you
We
can
probably could have gone
party.
away with that when we were like 16. Like they
Yeah,
don't care. Like
we could have, but we're just not the type to do that at 16. So
yeah.
we were just like, whatever. We're just gonna sit in our little like cafes, get our ice cream, and like chill. But I mean, if we were there right now, oh, bet I'd be like going to clubs, going like,
Love, I know, like
oh, it'd be so much fun. Like, oh, amazing bars, everything you can think of, just like partying it up. Like, partying it up in Belgrade or is something different.
I feel like it's also important to mention, like with the drinking stuff, like Europe in general is way more lenient with like their drinking rules. And this could be very general, but I'm just going to talk about like Serbian atmosphere of like drinking, where it's like people, like younger people there, don't drink to get like plastered. They don't do it to get wasted or destroyed. Like they drink like for shits, for fun, but they're not looking to get like obliterated kind of thing, which is like the complete opposite of like Western culture
Yeah.
and like that partying atmosphere. Where it's like, oh, if you're gonna go to like a house party, if you're gonna go out like and have a good time, like you better get like completely shit faced. Um, so that's also a big thing that I think is important to know.
Also, it's very chill because, like, I know some people that grew up here in the West, like, they are very, like, timid. Like, once they get that sense of freedom from their parents and that independence, they go ape shit. Like, they start drinking, they start partying, like, every weekend. Like, they just lose kind of control. But when you grow up, like, European, I think I can say that for every European, like, it's so lenient and chill that you don't need to have that sense of, like, getting drunk to get slashed. Like, you
Well,
can
to have
just,
a good time, exactly. Yeah.
like, you just, like, you, like, I think I had my first, like, sip of alcohol like, when I was 5. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
it's just like that. Like, that's how it is. And my parents were never like, no, you can't drink, like, blah, blah. Like, no, they were like, if you want, like, a little bit of, like, I know a traditional drink is, like, bamboo, so it's, like, wine and Coca-Cola. So, when you were little, or, like, 12 or whatever, and if you want a little bit of that, go ahead. Like, have a little bit of that. And, like, whatever. You may think I'm condoning young drinking. I'm not. I'm just saying
Yeah,
that.
it's important to note that like it's more of like a cultural thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure other cultures might even like introduce it as well, but like our parents would prefer that you like try it under their supervision as opposed to like, you know, when the time comes and you can go out and drink, that you're not like exploring it for the first time. It's not
Yeah.
like an entirely new concept to you. So
Yeah.
definitely.
What else are the things that we would like to mention? Like, we mentioned education is different. Definitely the drinking culture is different.
Mhm.
I also want to say that, like we said, like, the whole vibe over there is very different, freedom and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Also, there's a sense of hospitality.
Yeah.
Serbians are so caring and so hospitable when you visit, like, to anyone, even like tourists and everything, but especially to your own people. Like, when you go there, visit, always bring like a little like bag of coffee and like a little box of
Yeah,
chocolates.
chocolate bar, yeah.
Yeah. And like, you can always go there for like coffee. Like, I literally have a neighbor next to me that she's like family to me. Like, she's raised me for a portion of my life when I was living there or visiting every summer. And my mom and I would just go there pretty much almost every night and just sit there, watch TV with her, talk about our day, and have coffee. Like, it was amazing. Like, here you can I barely even talk to my neighbor. Like, literally the only neighbor I know is like this cute little lady that lives like right across from me. And like, I'm not technically even that close with her to the point. Like, I'll give her like little like food offerings and like, you know, ask for favors and stuff like that. But you know why she's acceptable of that? Because she's also European. She's German. See?
Go.
Like, it's just this whole like Western culture is like so cold, and like they just don't want that sense of closeness, that when I go back home, like, even anyone I meet, like, even if I met them for the first time, they would treat me like they've known me for like years.
Oh yeah.
And I just love that sense of feeling over there, that sense of security back home. So if one thing that the West culture needs to learn about is that shit, because like, it's
I agree.
so nice.
I agree, yeah. To kind of tie in with that, like, and the hospitality thing, like, for example, like here, Western culture, where you like meet someone and it's like shake their hand, or like if they're a little bit more open, you like give them a hug, but usually that's not really like the first step that you go towards. It's more of like a handshake and like a hi.
Yeah.
Um, European culture, or like Serbian culture, if we're gonna tie it in with that, kisses on the cheeks, squishing hug, come meet like half my family. Like, there is no limit. There is a lot of love with that nation and those people, and that's something that I greatly appreciate.
Yeah. I love like the three kiss on the cheek. Like I remember like seeing everyone for like there's a Serbian tradition. It's called like a slava.
Mm-hmm.
It's like celebrating what is it?
Thanks.
A saint. Yeah. So it's celebrating a saint, and I would sit there with like my bowl of no, what the fuck is it called?
Well, you can eat everything at a slava, man. You got
No, I know, but the fuck, Jito. Like he was, that's what I forgot the name. I'm there with like my bowl of Jito with like a wine, and everyone's like, hi, like kiss on the cheek, and you like greet them and stuff like that. Like, oh, amazing. 10 out of 10. Oh, I wish we had that here. Like, it's so, actually, people even that you meet here that are like Serbian are like that for the most part. You do have some, I'm going to say per se, whitewashed Serbians where they just like don't care about their culture, like don't want anything to do with it. Like some parents don't even teach their kids Serbian because they're
That's
just like
very rare. I've usually seen that people will progressively like speak and teach their kids Serbian as they grow.
really? No, I don't know. Like I remember I have an incident with a friend I used to have. She was also Serbian. She's Serbian, and we used to work together at Tim Hortons when I was younger. And I remember when she started, I saw her name and I was like, "Are you Serbian?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she looks at me and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm Serbian too." And she's like looking at me like so annoyed. She's like, "Okay." And I'm like, I can speak it. And then she goes, sure. And she and like by that she meant like, and then I went full on fluent on her, and she was like, oh, okay, because she thought I was one of those Serbians that just knew like swear words or just knew like the basic grammar and stuff like that, because she was fluent like pretty much. And I was just like, nah, bitch, let me pull out my card.
I thought the story was gonna be like she didn't know any Serbian. I was gonna be like, ooh.
No. She was just like, she was surprised that I was so fluent in it. And every time I meet a fellow Serbian, I just love to speak it because I'm like, oh, we're the same people.
Yeah.
And like, I just love sharing that part of my culture with other people, especially if they can also speak it fluently. I would love to have a friend that's like that just like knows it fully, and like we can just purely speak Serbian, because I don't want to forget that part of my culture. Like I don't want to forget that language. I have learned it for 4 years fluently, and even though I still speak it with my mom, I have forgotten some of the words. Like I still speak with friends back home and stuff like that, but I forget some of the words. My English accent is completely back, like not completely, but like it's still a little bit there. Like you can hear it in my tone that there's an accent there when I speak Serbian, and I'm mad at it, but like there's nothing I can do because literally 90% of my life I'm just speaking English.
I
So
would say we're pretty good though. Like considering that like like you spent like the 4 years there, and that definitely like improved like overall like your range and the way you speak. But even like spending just like 2 months there, like over the summer, like you just very quickly like pick up on it again. And then, by the time like the 2 months is up and you're getting like used to it all over again, and your skills have very much improved, like everyone comments on how much it's improved, you come back, and then within like 6 months like you kind of just like regress to your former state. So
yeah, it's a blessing and a curse to say.
yeah, but like I said, I think like we're pretty good, all things considered. Like we usually get complimented on like how well we speak when we
Yeah,
go.
I know people are always shocked when I pull out like the fluent card, and they're like,
You pull it out and you start having a conversation, everyone's like, eh,
yeah, I exactly. Like I remember I was at a bus stop with my university friends that I did the most recent podcast episode with, Tiana and Hillary, and Tiana's half Serbian, and I was like teaching her Serbian, and then I was like saying some words or whatever. I was at the bus stop and I was like telling her something, and she was like, "What does that mean again?" And I was explaining it to her, and there was this woman, and she goes, "Oh, do you speak like Serbian? Is that Serbian?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then she goes, "Oh, that's great. Like, um, I'm Serbian too." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" She goes, "Yeah." And then she like, and I start speaking fluent with her, and she gets shocked And then literally that was the most, I literally like ditched Hill and T for like 2 minutes because I was just like, I want to speak to this woman. And lo and behold, she works for a media company in Toronto. And I
Really?
still have her card. I still have her business card. I still have her number. And it's just crazy how like just like speaking with someone, and that's how we are in general, like Serbians, like if we see someone that is our kind, we'll like help them like no matter what, like
That's an unspoken agreement, I would say, between every nationality. Like, you find one of your own, and it's like you're giving the best possible arrangement option that you can give them because they're your own.
yeah, exactly. And it was just so cool to even experience that. So I know T was like jealous. She's like, man, I wish I spoke it now. And I was like, haha, bitch.
It's tough though, like for people that grow up, let's say like half Serbian, half Italian, half Serbian in general, and half something else. Like a lot of times, like when you have two not conflicting, I shouldn't say, but like two very different cultures, um, like it's difficult. Like sure, you've got like your English from living in Canada, but it's like it's hard to only speak, let's say like Serbian when only one parent is Serbian. It's tough to speak like Italian if only one of your parents is Italian. It's hard to grasp both.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
definitely. So I kind of don't necessarily like blame those people for not knowing.
Yeah, I know.
It's you can pick it up, give it some time, and if you practice, it's you can pick it up for sure.
Yeah, I agree. That's also like one of the things that I'm kind of hesitant about, because I'm in a relationship and my partner is not Serbian, and it was always that fear in the back of my head, like, crap, like if I don't find someone Serbian, I'm gonna lose that touch of my heritage and my culture. And it's still in the back of my head, like to this day. I'm like, what if I just completely lose it? Like, I don't want to speak just English with my kids. I feel like that would be so weird. I just couldn't. But like, I mean, it is what it is. My mom always said, like, the most important thing is like you find a man that like treats you and respects you, right? Like, who, like, screw whatever like the culture is in the background. Like, as long as they're good to you, that's most important, Serbian or not. And I was like, you know what? She got a point. So.
Yeah, I would say though I would prefer like someone from the Balkans, like just like keep that like touch. Maybe it wouldn't necessarily be like a Serb, but like Bosnian, Greek,
Yeah.
like just somewhere. Well, fine, Greek isn't really considered Balkans.
Yeah.
Orthodox.
Yeah, Orthodox, yeah.
So, yeah, definitely.
Okay,
I
well,
wouldn't be
that
mad
was
at
a.
an Italian though.
What, sorry?
Wouldn't be mad at an Italian dude though, or something, or like French.
I know, right? Are you trying to shoot your shot on my podcast? Are you trying to get someone to hit you up?
I mean, no.
She's single.
And busy.
Okay, well, that was a long conversation I intended on having, but I want to move on to. That was like a very in details. I hope y'all enjoy that. So I want to move on to our.
We can go. Sorry.
We could talk like 5 fucking hours about that.
Okay.
But I'm gonna move on to our favorite childhood memories. So me and Afta had the luxury. I keep on repeating the luxury because it is. It's like a great. I'm really grateful for it. Of growing up together. Like I had no siblings. We were literally each other's siblings.
Yeah, you were definitely the closest thing I have to a direct sibling.
Yeah. I'd say like that's why I call her my sister. Like she's not my cousin, y'all. Like
It's
she.
also a Serbian thing.
Yeah.
It's a family tree thing, but
Yeah. Your cousins are called your sisters, by the way, or brothers. But we're not gonna get into that. But besides that culture thing, like I genuinely see you as like a sister in my eyes. So, and I know you do too. So it's just, Okay, but I want to move on to our favorite memory together. So I'm gonna start mine. Actually, you say yours because I think I'm gonna steal yours. But what is
I'm
yours?
not allowed to say it hasn't necessarily happened yet. Like
I need to know now.
in terms of like if you're asking like a favorite moment that we've had together, like I feel like my favorite moment is still like yet to come. Like we've spent a lot of time together. A lot of times it being like here in Toronto, like we never exactly lived like close to each other.
Yeah.
It would always be a mission to see each other, whereas when we're in Serbia, we're a lot more accessible to each other and a lot closer. Sometimes even down the street.
It's a blessing.
But I guess if we're talking like we have so much time to spend together in the future. We have so much more to explore together, whether it be traveling or like taking on like certain things in life that I feel like I don't necessarily have a favorite yet. Yeah. If
That's
we're
cute shit right there.
Yeah, man, it's true though. If we're talking like previous memories like together, maybe just like creating like our inside jokes. I don't think there's even necessarily like a certain moment, but just like creating like jokes from like TV shows and songs and like things we find on the internet. Yeah, I can't necessarily pin it down to one, but I guess like my first answer would be the best, where it's like it's still yet to come. Like something's gonna happen, and I'm gonna be like, that's gonna be the moment.
True. I think that might come unleashed when we start traveling together. I feel like that's like a whole other like
Definitely.
series, which I'm excited for. That's cute. No, I agree. I also would say yes, we do have a lot of time to come, but as of what in the previous favorite memory, I would definitely say like like summers in Serbia. Like especially that one summer when we were both there together, and it was like the first summer we were both there for like the whole time, and we're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my god, the stars aligned. I think we were actually together when we were like younger and everything, but it's different when you're like, because what were we like 17 and stuff like that, so it's different at that coming of teenage and stuff like that. So that was my favorite. Like we went to like Nancy Mihailovo, we got drinks, we sat in my balcony, not my balcony, my like deck outside, and we like drank like beer. Like we went to the store and got beer.
Oh, we got sweets.
Yeah, we got sweet. We ate like maline too. Like it was. We were
I
like,
have
yeah,
a picture in my camera roll.
yeah. Like oh, it was so much fun, and like we just like spend nights. We'd go get popcorn or kokice when I was at Pazova.
Best cookies ever, man.
Like we just chill, like walk around. Like it was so much fun, and like I think that was definitely like that summer was like a really good memory for
Mm.
me.
And now that you mentioned that, speaking of like summers in Serbia, if we're gonna go into like that specific subsection, I'd say just like even like family dinners and like Belegish
Oh
with like the whole fam. So it
yeah,
would be like our father's side of the family. So it would be like grandma, grandpa, who unfortunately aren't alive anymore, but were
yeah,
both incredibly wonderful people. It would be my father. Your father was also there as well. Nek Malaka Tsinazanya, like also not with us anymore,
yeah.
unfortunately. But it would also be your mother, my mother, Marco Branco, so like your brothers, my cousins. And we would just like stay there like all day, like all afternoon, just like eating, cracking jokes. Like you and I would be like going off and doing something fun, and then we'd come to the table and like Deda in particular, like our grandpa would be joking with us, cracking like jokes and stuff. Like that those were really cool. They didn't happen often, but they were like always super, super fun.
Yeah, I forgot about those. Like those were amazing. Like yeah, you're completely right. Unfortunately, due to circumstances, the cottage that is like sold, we don't have that anymore. Those, unfortunately, it's only just memories. Unfortunately, we cannot keep going to that place. I mean, we've lost people, we've lost that place, so it's a sad thing, but I mean I'm still happy that we have those memories, because like you're right, like shit, like that was literally like the best, like those nights. And the like we'd go to the beach, we'd ride my dad's jet ski.
Oh my god.
We'd like I remember once my dad had like walkie talkies. This is when we were like
I
9 or something
remember
like
that. I was
that.
gonna bring that up actually.
Like he had walkie talkies, so we like took that. I don't know why he had walkie talkies, but he had walkie talkies, and we would like go over, like, because we had the huge like playing area. Like our dad that had like a huge garden, and like we literally just take the walkie talkies and be like, Agent N, like, do you copy? And you'd be like, copy Agent I or whatever. Like it was just so
Roger
much.
that.
It was just so much fun. Another little cute memory I have. Well, it's my favorite Canadian memory. Is when you like slapped me.
Oh my god. I didn't think you were gonna bring that up. Okay, I was super mean to you as a child, and
She
like
was a bitch to me.
very aggressive. Like I shouldn't say like super aggressive, but like yeah, like I punched you for like a juicy drop pop because I
Yeah.
really wanted it.
Ah.
That was a bitch move, admittedly bad. Yeah, like I can't believe you put up with my shit, to be honest.
Honestly, I don't know how. Like, you were a bratty kid, or not bratty, bratty in the sense like you just like
I was mean.
you were mean. You just hated me for some reason.
I didn't hate you. I don't know, man. I can't explain it. I like to think that I've gotten nicer, but
Well, yeah. No, you can't. No, I honestly, like, looking back, like, if I think about it more, comparing yourself now to when you were younger, I don't think, like, if I put myself in my shoes back then, I do not think we would have been as close if you stayed, like, the same like that.
definitely not.
Because, like, there's no way. I would put up with so much that, like, I would just be like, you know what, screw you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it would just, we would have been like that, like, frenemy cousin. Like, that's what we would have ended up like. But then, you know, as we both matured and stuff like that, I think I say the same, but, like, as, you know, you matured mainly.
You were always, like, the nicer one. You were, like, I was always very, like, I suppose, like, I'm, like, the realist of the two of us. Like, I'm more, like, in touch with, like, not so much in touch with reality, but, like, I grew up with a lot of conservatism, and that's not even a word, but my parents are both very, like, conservative people. Like, they're very, like,
oh yeah, like
they're both very, like, go go go, like, next step, think ahead, next step. Like, that's just the way I was raised, and plus being an only child, like, everything is kind of just, like, pressed onto me to be like that. And so growing up, I feel like I definitely, yes, was a lot meaner and still kind of am, depending on, like, what I'm dealing with and who I'm dealing with. But
you can throw hands, sis.
yeah, quick to throw hands at it. But growing up, I definitely had, like, the pressure of being the only child, still having the pressure, like, I'm the only descendant of them, to have no siblings. Like, I have to turn out okay. Right?
I mean, you have a point.
But yeah, I did slap/punch you. Unfortunately,
It was as long as you regret it, that's fine.
I regretted it, like, immediately, like, 20 minutes after, because you ran up to my dad and you were like, she punched me.
Of course I tattletale. That was abuse, you bitch.
And I was like,
Of course I tattletaled. That was abuse, bitch.
I deserve to be tattled on. I deserved it.
Oh my god. There were just, like, cute little moments like that. Like, I remember.
That's not a cute moment, but alright.
I have another cute moment. It's me embarrassing you because you were such a brat when you were younger. One more moment I have is for Halloween. We'd always do Halloween together, by the way, which was really fun. I have the best. That's my favorite memory. So besides the slap.
What you're gonna say, by the way, I definitely think I know what you're gonna say.
No, you do. Okay, so for Halloween one night, I'm crying because it's so good. We went up to this house, and Natalija went first, I think.
No, you went first.
Oh, I went first? Oh.
You always went first because you weren't scared.
Exactly. I'm not a pussy. And so we went up. Well, I went up. And then we knocked, because I think it was a really scary house, right?
Yeah, like, they went all out with decorations. Like, that they had just, like, that was that house on that street. Like, it had that vibe. Yeah. It was.
And you were too scared to go. So the ballsy one went.
In my defense, like, we were, like, what, 6?
Yeah, like 6, 7, I think.
We were, like, 6 or 7 years old. We did that for, like, quite a few years.
Yeah, we did.
Halloween, yeah.
But yeah, we were young. We were scared. But I wanted candy. That was my motivation. So, like,
you were just like, give me the candy, scare me, I'll go. Like, yeah.
Exactly. So I went up and I knocked on the door, and, like, this guy in this fucking, like, what's that type of movie? Is it
the Scream mask?
Is it that one? The Scream? Yeah.
That was always a very popular mask.
Yeah, so he had, like, a Scream mask on, and he's like, hello, or whatever, and I'm like, trick or treat!
My house ran. Plus, it was also that house that had, like, the really scary sound effects.
Yeah, it had spooky sound effects, yeah.
I, like, was behind you, and I was like, if something jumps out, I'm bolting. Like, not gonna happen.
But yeah, and then I was like, trick or treat, and he gave me, like, this pumpkin light-up thing. The light-up pumpkin. And I remember coming home, and I was so excited for my light-up pumpkin. I was like, oh my god. And Natalija, being the little douche she was when she was younger, she got mad at me for having the pumpkin. And she, like, wouldn't talk. She wouldn't talk to me, like, didn't want to hang out with me, blah, blah, blah.
And
I
remember what he did?
Yeah, like you wouldn't talk to me. Like you
I
were
thought
mad
I
at
just
me.
really got pissed and then we went home. Like, I thought that, is that what happened?
Yeah, like you wouldn't talk to me, and then because you got upset, your dad had to come up to me and tell me like, "Hey, could you hide that pumpkin? Like Natalija is really upset." And I was like, even back when I was a child, I was like, okay, I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, I hid it under my bed, and then I think we like somehow awkwardly started playing again or whatever. I mean, you went home shortly after that, but like I remember distinctly your dad being like,
Damn.
hide the pumpkin, and I was like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, I really hate my younger self. Like, my younger self was like much cuter, but like, damn, real bitch.
She was a feisty ass, that's what she was.
I could have also probably have to do with the fact I was an only child and I was kind of used to getting everything I wanted.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I necessarily grew up spoiled. Like, I've asked my parents this like plenty of times, like, please let me know, like, if I was someone that was like always asking for stuff, if I always needed everything. If I really wanted something, they usually would get it for me, but there wasn't many things in that category that I really wanted. So I feel like overall, considering how messed up I could have been, I think I turned out okay.
Honestly, yeah, I agree with that. I think you could have turned out like way more spoiled, and you're actually not. Like you're grateful for whatever you have and like what you get from them, and like you don't ask for over the top. Like you only ask for like normal stuff, like on your birthday, Christmas, and stuff like that. Like you're very normal. Like you could have turned out way worse. So like, I agree with that.
That is greatly appreciated to hear from you,
Of
considering I
course,
was such a bitch.
you're welcome. So I'm gonna go a little bit more deep into this conversation. So
Okay.
we're gonna go dive deeper. So it's gonna be what you regret doing in your childhood.
A lot.
Besides being a bitch to me, but like what else is there?
That's a good chunk of that. Um, I guess this could tie in with like the injury I was talking about earlier, because we were just dumb and we just did not pay attention to what we were doing.
Oh, I know what story you're gonna tell.
Yeah. I'm gonna try and make it short. I have a way of telling stories that I repeat the same thing like several times until I get to the end. And for the sake of time, I'm gonna try not to do that. So this is gonna be that time. So I think we were about 10 years old.
Yeah,
I
about that.
think we were 10. I should probably mention, like, for the first few times that I went to Serbia with my parents, it would usually only be with my mom first. So it would just be me and my mom for like the first 3-4 weeks, and then my dad would come join us after because he still had to work and he couldn't take that much time off work yet. So it was one of those days where it was like me, my mom, my uncle, so my uncle from my father's side and my mother's side, so your father as well, he was there, you were there, and of course like grandma and grandpa from dad's side. And we were up there at the cottage, and I think we had just eaten lunch, and you and I went upstairs all the way to the attic. And that attic was like really cool. It had like a king size bed and like a tiny twin, a desk. Like it was pretty much like a little living space.
Oh my god, I miss that so much.
Yeah, a little living space. Like whenever like my parents and I would sleep over and stay there for a few days, or your family if they would stay over there for a few days, just to get away from all the craziness.
Yeah.
And that particular time, a storm was set to come.
And that shit came out of nowhere, by the way. It was like sunny, beautiful, and it just started fucking thunderstorming.
Yeah, so we were up there. I distinctly remember we were on the balcony. It was a beautiful view, like it was my grandpa's garden. It was a beautiful day outside, and we kind of got bored and we went back inside, and we didn't close the balcony door properly. So we're playing for a bit inside, and all of a sudden it starts to rain really, really hard. We're talking like thunder, we're talking lightning, very heavy rain, like it's terrible. And we're like, we're kind of bored up here. We don't really have much to do. Plus, it's like raining. We're just going to go downstairs and join everyone else. And downstairs, we're not talking really about like the living room area. There's a sort of portion near the garage. It was kind of like a second kitchen in the house. It was where we would usually prepare food and stuff when our families would congregate for dinners. And we were like, okay, we'll just go down there and like chill with everyone else. And on our way down the stairs, the balcony door flew open and the rain was coming in and landing in like a really big pile in front
I
of us.
forgot that it flew open. I didn't know it flew
Yeah,
open.
because we didn't close it properly and the wind blew it open. a large pool of water was starting to form, and I was like, oh man, like we're gonna get in so much trouble if we leave it like this. Like we can't just leave it like this. Like, they're literally gonna kill us.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what, let's go back. And so me, trying to be responsible, I walk over to the door, and in that puddle I slip, and my left leg ankle area, it like lodges in. I'm sorry, this is very graphic for those of you that don't like to hear graphic details about injuries, but I literally lodged my my leg into a little metal corner of that door because I
Yeah.
slipped in the water. Oh man, that was bad. That all is a blur now. Like, I'm bleeding, I'm crying. You like run after me to like see the damage, and you like manage to close the door, and you're like, go downstairs, like go get my dad, like go get your mom. And I'm like bleeding, I'm limping down the stairs, and at this point the wind is howling, so I step outside and I'm trying to call to them, because they were in the lower kitchen near the garage, and I'm like, mom, Cha, like I'm trying to get someone's attention, but they can't hear me because there's a lot of rain and a lot of noise. And eventually, like, I make my way down there, I like hobble downstairs, and yeah, I still have that injury to this day. Like,
Yeah, she has a scar from it.
yeah, that's never gonna go away. I went to the doctor, I should say. I went to the doctor, and I had to get my foot wrapped in like gauze and stuff for like probably like 2-3 weeks. And the doctors were like, she got very lucky. Like, if that had went a little bit further, it could have like severed a vein or something, and it could have caused an even greater amount of bleeding. So I did get very, very lucky. My mom didn't actually tell my dad about the injury until he came to Serbia about 2-3 weeks later, because she knew he would have absolutely flipped out. But he was just glad that I was okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was a pretty bad memory.
I remember my dad, though. He was
And then it got bad, so.
like, my dad was a real superhero on that. Like, I remember he was like so calm. He was like, it's fine. You were like crying. He's like, it's okay. Chicha has got this. And it's
Yeah,
like so cute. Like, he was like wrapping you up, carrying you. It
yeah.
was just, and I was like freaking out. And I felt so bad because I remember, I think we were literally debating on who should go close the door. And I think,
Yes, we were.
and I
Yeah,
was like, and I don't know like how we come to I think you just like, you were like, fine, like you're being stubborn, like I'll do it. And I was like it literally could have been any of us.
that's true.
It literally, and for some reason, it was you. Maybe it's karma because you were a
It's karma.
bitch to me.
That's exactly what it was.
It
The
was
universe was
karma.
like, she needs to learn a lesson. Strike her down.
Oh, I mean, who knows? Maybe, but it was just so. And then, but the thing is, like, because you didn't close it right when you slipped, right?
I was on my way to close it, but I slipped before I could,
Yes. So then I went to go close it,
went
right?
to close it after me.
So like literally, I could have done the same exact thing. Like that's what I'm saying, right? Like I could have literally went to go close it and slipped, and we would have had 2 incidents.
Yeah,
Like it's just crazy how shit like that happens. But yeah, that was one of my like, yeah, that was a scary
that
moment.
was scary.
That was really scary for you. I remember that. Something I regret in my childhood. Oh God.
So I guess
Um,
you could say I regret closing that door.
I guess one thing I regret doing, and I mentioned this in episode, is it episode 2? Yeah, episode 2 about like losing my dad. Like I remember during the whole divorce and shit that was going on back home, I kind of saw him in a different light. Like I didn't really see him as a father. And keep in mind, like before all of that happened, like we were really close. Like he would bathe me. I'd go there like every summer. Like he would take care of me. Like I'll never forget. Like I was back home at the cottage and I got really sick with a fever. So my like Baba had to like my grandma had to like help me, and she tried to like give me rakia and like like she gave me. She's like
There's being cure for everything.
I literally remember, I think Deba gave me, like, a little shot. He's like, drink this, it's gonna help you. And I was like, okay. And I, like, had to scotch, I had to, like, drink down that brandy. And I was like, oh, God. But, yeah, like, I had a really bad fever. And then Tata had to come pick me up at, like, 2 a.m. or something like that. Like, I remember him, like, being just, the prime caretaker when I was there. So we were really close. Like, I would sleep with him in his bed and shit like that. So it was, like, really cute moments. And then when the divorce happened and stuff like that, I kind of saw him in such a different limelight. So one thing I would kind of regret also ties in, again, what I said. Kind of a repeat, but, like, I wish I spent more time with him. I didn't. I wasn't that, like, petty about, seeing, I wasn't that petty about holding back grudges against him. So, I mean, it's done and over now, but like at the time I was like, he ruined our family. But like, what what's meant to happen is meant to happen. Like that's the way like the universe wanted it. So I just wish I like looked at it in a different light, and I was like, he's still my dad. Like I should still try to maintain that relationship with him. So I guess that's one thing I regret doing. I don't at all like regret moving back home or anything like that. Like I think honestly that was, again, tying in with the topic, switch it around from regret to what you love the most. I think the one thing I love the most about my childhood was I got the luxury and the privilege of growing up and living back home, because that like completely changed me. I don't think I would have seen my intelligence if I hadn't moved back home. I think I still would have kept like that C average. Um, I don't think I would have been as in touch with my culture if I didn't move back home, have met amazing friends. I don't think I would have been that close with my mom at all, because before then I did not see my mom as like my best friend. I just saw her as like a parental figure. But now, oh, that woman is my rock. Like I love her. Like we're literally best friends. So like stuff like that happen, like even bad or not necessarily like good things, even some good came out of them. So I think that moving back home was honestly the best slash the worst decision of my life. But for the most part, I look at it in a positive light. So I honestly think it was for the best. So
I missed you though.
I know that was hard.
Sense of like, well, you moved back just in time to start grade 9, so that was a solid like 4 years of middle school. That's an exact chunk of middle school
Yeah.
development that we spent away from each other. But we were always in very good contact. Like back then, like when we were younger, we played a lot of those like social games. So we'd be on Webkins,
Oh, fucking.
on Club Penguin. Like we had like every single account on there that you could possibly make, and we would just chat there. We'd email each other. We'd Yahoo Insta message each other. Like we definitely kept our contact, and I'm very grateful for that, because at that age, usually people aren't, or should I say like kids, because we were still really kids at the time, don't bother keeping in touch because of the distance and the time zone, the 6-hour time difference that is between us. Yeah, I'm very glad we managed to sustain that while you were gone.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very glad too. And now that you say it, it is like crazy how we were little kids, but we still found that deep connection that we wanted to keep. So it's just, it's crazy how shit works out and stuff like that. Because who would think like a 10-year-old would like chat every Friday with her cousin? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's unheard of or not common where like you keep in touch with someone at that young age.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm also very grateful for it, because we would have not, I mean, we would have continued our like really like relationship and stuff like that, but I think that definitely also helped it and like maintaining it, and not just like having a period of like nothing and then continuing it. It was just continuous cycle.
Yeah.
Is that yours? Was that your best moment, or do you have another best moment?
Best moment with you, or just like by myself?
But anything by yourself.
There have been a lot of good moments. I don't know. It very much depends on like which stage of my life. Like if we're talking like middle school, like I graduated from my middle school being like valedictorian. That at the time I didn't realize like what a cool like thing that was, but then I realized after like what that entailed, and I was like, oh, like that's kind of cool. High school, I met a lot of great people in high school, and I had a lot of great moments with people in high school that I'll cherish forever. And I've met some people that I'm going to cherish forever. So those were nice moments. University, a lot of suffering.
Is there one like childhood moment that kind of like you're like, oh damn, like I'm really happy that happened? Like for me, it was like moving back home. Like for you, like is there like a certain moment that pinpoints and you're like, ah yes, that?
I really don't know if there's anything particular that I would be like, this is the best moment. Like, yes. I don't know. It all kind of like merges together. There was no like that thing for you moving back home, like major life event. Like that
Yeah.
changed everything. Like your
Yeah.
world is entirely flipped. Um,
Did you say your regret moment? I can't remember.
My regret moment was, well, in terms of like physical, it's definitely the closing the balcony door.
Oh, yeah, you said that one, right?
In terms of like emotionally, I guess just like being mean sometimes, like being mean to you, like when I think back to like how sometimes I acted with you, like aggressive, like rude.
I
Um,
remember you actually called me Doc because I couldn't read as fast as you.
like I was just like I felt like everyone needed to be at my level.
Yeah.
I felt like, yeah, I was just like very like rude to people that like I thought weren't at my level. But in school, I wasn't necessarily mean to people. Like I wasn't someone who like bullied kids in the playground. I think it was just with you for some reason. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. Major
Yeah,
regret. If I
yeah,
could
like
go back
like
and change it, I would. Believe me.
no, like yeah, you weren't like a bully in like middle school or anything like that. Like I never heard stories. Like I know you're not the type of person to do that anyway. But I don't know. I guess it was maybe just I don't know a family dynamic. Maybe for you know what I'm thinking about now. Maybe I was for you. Okay, how do I word this? I was your Marco. Like I would annoy
Yeah,
you. So
maybe.
like you had that sibling relationship with me where you were like, this bitch is annoying. I love you, but I also hate you because you're annoying. Blah blah. You know, I think that's what it was.
Well, like as kids, like I can even distinctly have to remember probably until I was about like 12 years old. I was so annoying, man. Holy. Like even now, like if I'm talking about something that I find particularly interesting, like I don't shut up. Like I am a talker. I love to talk, whether it be about myself or other people, roasting myself, roasting other people if they can handle it. Just like talking so much and yeah, like it wasn't like I wasn't an annoying kid and then I can be like, oh well that bitch was annoying, like you were annoying. But I was annoying too, so I really just we're gonna forget about those years. Suppress it. Use some psychological like methods and just repress that in the back of my mind.
I'm never gonna let you suppress that shit. It's just too funny. We can laugh about it now though because
Yeah,
like
you
we're.
can like roast me at my future wedding and stuff to like
Oh, I will bet
yeah,
I'm gonna say that in my speech.
do that.
No, but like we can laugh about it now because now we're like super fucking close. Like if we didn't, like I think honestly what tied our closeness was I remember one specific night.
I
Oh,
remember it too.
oh my
I
god, it's
think
gonna go
I know what you're
so we're gonna go so deep right
we're
now.
going deep.
Who get the tear tissues ready? I remember once it was at my house, we were sleeping over, and we just had like a really heart to heart moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the first time ever. Like we've always been close in the sense of like we joke around, we make funny jokes, blah blah, but we never got emotional with each other or like opened up our insecurities or our fears or like our issues that we were having. Like it was always just like la di da di da, get the best part of
Yeah.
me, right? And that night we just shared everything. Like I think we both broke down crying. Like I literally think I broke down crying, then you held me, and then you broke down crying, and then I held you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I look back at that moment, like that is one moment that I'm like, that is what I think solidified
Mm-hmm.
our relationship as like sisters. Like that's what brought us into like the mature mindset and we're like, okay, like this is for life now. Like this isn't just like a playful cousin relationship. Like sometimes like I have that with like my other cousins from back home on my mom's side. Like, you know, we can talk and stuff like that. Like it's all like surface level is fine, but like I never really opened up to them. Like I never had like a genuine like open honest conversation with them about anything that's happened in my life. But with you, like that is what solidified it, and I think that's what really brought us together more.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I mean, the dynamic there in your relationship with cousins from mom's side is also a little bit different because like you've lived here and we've experienced a lot of like the Western world together, but we also have that like portion in Europe where we experience Europe together and we both grew up in like those two different environments and we both are very similar as people in terms of things that we like and opinions on things. We're both very much on the same wavelength, on the same page when it comes to stuff like that. So I think that definitely helps as well.
Yeah, we're pretty much similar. Like we get called twins all the time.
when we were younger, we really did look a lot alike.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit less because you dye your hair and we've all grown out. We've matured in terms of like puberty and whatnot, but
Okay, we have the same Yugoslavian nose.
yeah, we had the big nose.
No, but I mean, even to this day, like if you look at us, people are like, "Oh, you guys are sisters," and we're like,
famous people even think that we're sisters, y'all. Like they know.
We're like technically. Yeah, I think Lights, right? Lights
Lights
was
was like, are you guys related? And we're like, here we go again.
long story.
Yeah. But that too, definitely the fact that we look like each other, I think definitely like also that connection. We also both, when we were both born as preemie babies. We were both born 3 months earlier than we were supposed to be. So I was supposed to be born in September and you were supposed to be born in June, which is funny because I'm born in June and you're born in March. Yeah. So the Gemini role reversal would have been.
I know, right? I can imagine myself as a Gemini, but
the universe was like, no, Ivana's not going to be problematic. Ivana's not going to be the one to be problematic. It's going to be Natalija.
Yeah, because you were supposed to be, if you were in September, you're supposed to be like a Virgo, I think.
A Virgo.
Yeah.
So. I kind of like to think that I'm like half and half because I don't think I possess like all the Gemini traits particularly. Yeah. I feel like I also like to read like Virgo astrology, zodiac stuff. Not that I necessarily believe it. I'm not one of those people. I just like to read it for shits. It's way too general to be accurate, I think. But that's a whole other podcast you can do just based on zodiac and astrology and stuff.
That's true. But yeah, we were both preemie babies. We have that, like, if that's not faith, I don't know what the fuck is. Yeah. Like, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to move on, which is our last one for today, unfortunately, is advice to your younger self.
Yeah, we already kind of covered that.
We kind of did, but I just want to, like, generalize it. So, I want you to go. So, what is your advice that you would give your younger self?
Well, number one, don't be mean to your cousin. I grew up feeling, I still do to a certain extent, it just leveled out a little bit, but growing up feeling a lot of pressure, being an only child, having two parents that, you know, immigrants, but are successful, you know, considering everything they've had to go through to create a life for themselves in this country. A lot of pressure to do well in school, you know, a lot about that, like feeling the pressure and having to do well and, you know, go to university and, you know, pursue something that's worth pursuing or that will give you a good job. I hope what I'm doing is good. It's a Bachelor of Science in Biology, but I don't want to be a doctor, so that's not cut out for me, but hopefully that's something that's going to pay well in the future, even if I don't end up doing a career in that field. But yeah, just pressure from parents to do well and not to be mean. Be nicer.
Be nicer?
Yeah.
For me, wise, I say definitely don't be too hard on yourself. Like,
I would agree.
I would definitely try to say don't be too hard on yourself. And second, you're not fucking dumb. Like, there were so many moments when I was younger that I was like, oh, I'm stupid because I had, like, my C average. And then, like I said earlier in the podcast, I proved myself wrong. And then I ended up getting, like, a 4.5 GPA. And even now, like, I remember if I fast forward it, like, to university, like, first year of business, I was like, I'm dumb. Like, I hate, like, I don't like what I'm doing, but, like, I can't retain it. Like, I'm just, like, stupid. Like, here we go. Like, you know, here we go again. And I was getting, like, 40s, 50s, 60s. And here I am taking media, something I love doing. And I'm not dumb. I just didn't like what I was doing. And here I am getting, like, 80s and stuff like that. So, like, that's one thing I would tell myself. Don't be too hard on yourself, especially, like, with the shit I've been through throughout my life. There's so many aspects of my life that I've been through, and this is not a therapy podcast. I'm not gonna go in and share my personal details because that would be too much. But I would definitely say, like, for what you've been through, you've turned out really well. So I don't want to start crying now. Damn.
No,
Like,
don't start crying. This is supposed to be a celebration of like.
I know. It's just like it's the first time I'm telling myself that. So like, it's nice to hear. So like,
Fine, I'll say it for you. You're that bitch.
I'm that bitch. But yeah, like
I would definitely agree with that. Sorry, but I just have to say, like, you've been through a lot, and some people, like, when they go through so much stuff in a certain period of time, like, it's very difficult for people to learn how to handle it and how to handle themselves, and deal with not only stuff going on, spiritually, emotionally inside them. It's also dealing with other changes in your physical environment, school.
Yeah.
And dealing with friends and dealing with a bunch of other things, and I have to say you've done that very well, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I love you. I won't, but I love you. Thank you. But yeah, definitely, I'm very proud of that, and I think I should definitely just acknowledge it more often. Like, I've been told to by people, and it's really hard to believe it because life just moves on so fast, and it's so continuous, and sometimes I forget to stop and just think to myself and tell myself, like, I'm proud of you and I'm proud for what you did and what you've been through. So yeah, I say that to myself. I'm very proud for how you turned out. So keep on shining, baby. Keep striving.
Your future you've got a very bright, very long future ahead of you. There is so much time to do things. There is so much time to travel. There is so much time to pursue a career. There is so much time left to be spent with good people and make good memories. And what's happening right now is not going to last forever. This is turning into one of those like motivational inspirational endings. But yeah, man, even on your hardest days, like for you and me both, like if we're feeling like crap and something just isn't going our way, it's easy to forget that it's not gonna last like ages.
It's temporary.
It's temporary. So yeah.
And I just want to end off by saying I'm very grateful to have a sister that is always here for me, and she knows that I'm always here for her. And I honestly think that if I didn't have you, life would be definitely lonely. Because like, we've grown up, we've seen worst sides of each other, best sides of each other, and I think we're still gonna, keep going strong, and we're gonna definitely see more sides in the future, like worst and best. But I think that where we stand right now, we're only gonna get stronger. Like, I don't think, honestly, anything would tear us apart. So, yeah, I'm very grateful to have you. So.
Got me for life.
Okay, on that cute, touchy note,
very cute,
we're gonna end the episode here today. Thank you, Natalija, for joining me.
Thank you, Ivana, for having me.
Of course. And thank you guys for tuning in and listening in to VASIVA. I will see you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.